Hello everyone. So in this video we are going to create a custom authentication system using Next.js, Prisma ORM and MySQL as our database. So here we can see the final version of our application. This would be the home page of our application. We have a create a new account page or sign up page where our new user can create a new account. We have a login page where our user can log in. We have another protected route or page, which is the profile page, which we cannot access at the moment because we're not logged in. So if we try to access the profile page, it would bring us back to this login page. Let's try from the home page. It brings us back to this login page because we cannot access this page without signing in. So let's create a new account and try to sign in and access the profile page. So let's create a new account for Sam Jones. The email would be sam@mail and the password. So if we click, we can see a nice little toast that said account created. Now we can sign in using those credentials. So email would be sam@mail and the password. The toast said login successful. So we have successfully logged in and it brought us to this profile page which we couldn't access before. So now we can see this link of the navbar also changed because we are logged in, and the link of the home page also have been changed to visit profile. It was create an account link before, but now it's visit profile because we are logged in, and we can click it to visit our profile page. So let's see what happens if we log out. If we click on log out, it will log us out and bring us back to this sign in page. And now we cannot access this profile page. And we can also notice that links have been changed from our navbar as well as from our home page. So let's look at the functionalities of our application. It's very simple. We have a sign up method where a new user can create a new account and they can log in after. And we have a protected route or page called profile page, which can only be accessed after the user log in or after we log in. So we're going to use Next.js for the front end, also backend. We are going to use Prisma ORM to interact with our database. MySQL would be our database. And as we are going to develop this application locally, we would need XAMPP to create our local server. And we are going to use Postman to test our API. Let's start building our application by creating a new folder called Next.js auth. And inside this folder, we're going to install Next.js first. So let's open our terminal and run this command npx create next app @latest. So it will install the latest version, and as we want to install it in the current folder, so // and hit enter. It will prompt us for few options. We will choose no for TypeScript, yes for ESLint. We will use Tailwind CSS, the source directory and the app router, and we would not customize the default import alias, so no. And it will install the Next.js. If you are in a Windows operating system, this may take a while to install. So we have successfully installed Next.js. Let's open it in our code editor. And let's also start the local development server so we can see our application. So this is how our application looks like at the moment. And now we are going to edit this page and make this our home page. We can find this page inside this app folder, which is inside this source directory. So let's find it in our project. Inside source, inside app, we have this page. Let's close this. So this is the page we are seeing here at the moment. Now what we can do is put them side by side so we can actually see what's going on. I'm going to remove all the content of this page and just print a H1 saying home page. We can see that we have successfully changed the content. There are some default styling that we have to remove from this global.css file. So let's remove them. And we can see that background is gone. So let's talk about this root layout a bit. This is the main layout of our application and it will be used throughout our whole application, and all the pages of our application will be rendered using this layout. If we can expand it a bit so we can see. This is just the font, Enter font, Google font that we are using. We are not going to worry about this metadata, but I'm going to change the title to Next Auth. And it will change the title as we can see here. And these children, every page that we create will be rendered using this children prop. So what we can do is put these children in a div and put some basic styling so it gets applied to all the page contents. So let's put these children inside a div. Let's format it. I'm going to put a maximum width. Let's put 1280. Let's center it. And some padding left and right. Let's also put some margin top to create space. Let's put margin of 6, which would be 24 pixels. Now we have a home page with some basic styling applying to all the pages that we will create. So let's now create all the pages of our application. Let's create the profile page first. So to create the profile page, create a new folder inside the app folder called profile. And inside this profile folder, we're just going to create a new file called page.jsx. And we are going to create a functional component. And I'm going to change the name of the function to profile. Now we have successfully created the profile page, and we can check here if we write in the URL /profile. We can see our profile page. Let's change the text to profile page. Let's create the login page. I'm going to copy this profile page to create the login page and just rename login. Change the name of the function to login and also the text and export. Now we have the login page. Now let's create the sign up page. In order to create sign up page, I'm going to copy this login folder and paste it and just rename it to sign up. Also gonna change the name of the function just like before and change the text. Now if we check, we have our sign up page. So now we have all the pages of our application. Now let's create this navbar of our application. The navbar of our application will be a component, so I'm going to create a new components folder inside the source directory. And inside this components folder, we are going to create the navbar component. So let's create a new file called navbar.jsx and a functional component. And if we just print h1 saying navbar, and if we use it in our root layout, it will be available for all the pages. So let's use it here. So now here you can see the navbar. If we visit another page like profile, we can still see the navbar. So let's now finish styling our navbar. I'm going to use the nav tag and put a background color bg slate of, let's say, 100 and padding top and bottom of 6. We can already see it, maybe 8. And inside it we will have a link. So this link, which will take us to the home page on click. I'm going to use the link component from Next.js to create that link. It will be auto imported. So let's say href would be / which means home, and we can write the text nxt auth. Now we have this link, and if we click on it, we can see that it takes us back to the home page. Now let's put this link inside a div which will have a maximum width of 1280 that we have used in our root layout, and it will also be centered, so mx auto, and padding left and right would be 5, which means 20 pixel. I haven't put the link inside, so let's put it. We can see here the style being applied. Let's style this logo a bit. I'm going to put a font size, let's say LG, which is 18, and font would be bold. This looks a bit better, so now let's create the other links of our application, and for those links I'm going to create a UL li, and the link component, let's say the first link would be our profile, and href would be /profile. Now if we click on it, it takes us to the profile page, so it's working. Let's duplicate this and create the link to the login page, and if we click on it, it's working as well. So this is the main container that's holding this logo and these links, which is inside a UL. Let's make it a flex so they're side by side, and justify between, so there's space between them, all the available space. And I will also vertically center them, so items center, so now they are vertically centered. The UL also gonna be a flex container, so the links are side by side, and I'm going to put some gap, so let's say gap of 3. So now there is gap and they do look better than before. So we can say that we have created our neighbor component. So let's move on to the home page. I'm going to close all. Let's find our home page inside the app, this page. So let's put some styling on this home page text. Let's give it a font size of text 4 XL and some margin bottom. Let's say 8. Create a paragraph. And below that paragraph, we are going to create the link to the sign up page. So let's give it some margin bottom 8, and we are also going to use here the link component from Next.js. The link will take us to the sign up page. So sign up here, and the text would be create an account. We can see this button here, and if we click on it, it takes us to the sign up page. So let's style this button a bit. I think a background color of blue would look better than this one. So let's say BG blue of 700. The text should be white so we can actually see the text. Padding X, let's say 5, and padding top and bottom 3. So this looks good enough. Now I'm going to put some border radius, so rounded LG, which would put 8 pixels of border radius, and it looks good enough and it's working. Let's create the profile page, which is inside this profile folder. Make it H1 and the same styling that we have put on our homepage title. So text size would be 4 XL and margin bottom of 8, and let's just put a paragraph of lorem of 20. So the functional component can only return one div, so we're going to put it in a React fragment, or you can put it in a div. So our error is gone and our profile page is ready. We are done with our profile page and our home page. So now let's create the login page. This will be a form. I'm going to put this form in a React fragment just in case if we need to put another div or anything below this form. So let's create the form, and this form will have a maximum width, of let's say MD, and it will have a background color of BG slate 100, the same as the navbar, and padding of 5. Now we can see it. Let's center it, and some border radius, say rounded LG. Now we can barely see it's rounded because of the background color. Now let's put some content in this form. So let's see the final version of our app. We have an email field and a password field and a button to submit the form, and a small link just in case we don't have an account that brings us to this sign up page. So let's create this field. I'm going to put each field in a div so we can put some margin button, let's say MB5, and inside this div first we'll have the label. It will be for email, and let's say your email. Now let's put the actual field. The type would be email. It will be required. Let's put some styling on this label. Let's just say block, so they're not on the same label or same row, and some margin bottom, MB of 2, so there's some space and they do look good. Now let's style our input field using Flowbyte, which is a component library. So let's go to Flowbyte and search for forms, and we're going to copy the styling of this input field. So let's copy the class names and let's put it here. We can see that our input field has been styled. I'm going to remove all the classes applied for dark theme, and let's put a ID of email. Now let's format this page. So now we have one of our field. I'm going to copy this field to make our password field. So it would be your password. Label HTML4 would be for password. ID is password as well as the type. And for our email, we can put a placeholder that says name@mail.com. Now both of our fields are done. Let's create the submit button. Let's create a button. The type would be submit and the text is submit. Now let's copy the style of this button, which is in our home page. So let's go to the home page and just copy this class name and put it here. So let's check our login page. So you can see the style being applied, and you will have a width of full, which means 100% of the available space. So let's put some margin bottom. So now we can create this small link that will take us to the sign up page just in case we don't have an account. So let's say p tag don't have an account, and I'm going to create the link using the Next.js component, the link component. So let's say link, and the hyperreference would be sign up. The text would be also sign up, and let's change the color to blue. So text blue of 500, maybe 700, and let's put some font weight, let's say medium. Now it looks better and it takes us to the sign up page. So now let's design our sign up page. As our sign up page and the login page is similar, so I'm just going to copy this, including the React fragment. Close all the pages. Let's go to our sign up page and just paste it here. We need to import the link. Let's just write, and we can just import it like this. And here we can see that it's imported. So let's go to the create an account page. So this is the create an account page, and if we check the final version, there are 3 fields, and there is one extra field that just says full name. So let's create this full name field. Just going to copy the first div and put it above the email. The HTML4 would be for name, ID is also name, and the type is text. Let's change the label text to full name, and the placeholder to John Doe. We also need to change the small link. So let's say already have an account. Let's remove this extra space, and this will be login page. This will take us to the login page. So href would be login/login, and we need to put some spacing between them. So let's say margin start of 2, maybe 1. Now we have some spacing. We also need to do this to the login page. So let's open this. Let's put a slash, and okay, we already have this space, so there's no need for this space. So if we check, we have successfully created the front end of our application. We have our home page, we have the profile page, we have the login page, we have the sign up page. So as we are done with our front end, let's start building our backend. So as we said that we are going to develop it locally, so we will need XAMPP. So open XAMPP control panel and start the Apache server and the MySQL, and let's also go to the admin panel of MySQL. Let's maximize this. So here, let's fix this. So here, now let's create a new database called Nextjs Auth. Now we have a database, but there's nothing in it. We are going to interact with this database using Prisma. So now we have to install Prisma. Let's go to prisma.io and let's see that how we can install Prisma in our Next.js application. Close this and let's click on Get Started. Quick Start, and here we can see the instruction to install Prisma in our application. We are going to copy this command first. Maximize this as well. Let's close these pages. Open our terminal and run this command. We have installed Prisma. Now we have to initiate the Prisma ORM and also provide the data source, means which database that we're going to use. So here we can find this command. Let's copy it, paste it here, and just change the SQLite to MySQL and hit enter. And we can see here in our application we have a new Prisma folder, and inside this we have this schema.prisma file. So using this schema.prisma file, we are going to connect our application to the database and also create tables for our database. So alongside this schema.prisma file, it also created a .env file with the connection string that will connect our application to the database. So let's do that. So mydb would be the name of our database, and we can see that the name of our database is Next.js auth. So let's put it here, Next.js auth, and our port is 3306. We can check in our XAMPP application that our port is indeed 3306. The server is the local host. We do not have any password, and the user is just root. Now we can say that we have successfully established the connection with our database, which we will see in action in a bit. Let's go back to the schema.prisma file, and we are going to use this file to create table in our database. So each model in schema.prisma file represents a table in our database. So let's just create a model with the name of users, and now let's create all the fields that we do need. First, let's create the ID, which will be integer, and it will be a primary key. So in order to make it a primary key, we need to write @id, and by default it will increment by itself. So we'd say that default at auto increment. So this ID is the primary key of our users table. Let's see what other fields or column we need for our table. So if we go to our sign up page, we have one field for the name, one for email, and one for the password, and we have mistaken the text. So let's change that first. Our sign up page, so let's change the text, create an account, and you can see it here. So we need these three fields, one for name, one for email, and one for the password. So let's create them. Let's close this one for now. So let's create the name column of field. The data type would be string, and after name we have email. So email, and the data type is also string. Let's format it. And we have one for, and we need one for password. So password, which is also string. And our email should be unique, so let's put unique. And I will create one more column called created at, which will be date time, and the default would be now function. So this created at will just record a timestamp when a new record is being created. Now we have all the necessary fields or columns that we need for our users table. Now if we run the migration command, it will create a table which will be called users in our database. So let's run the migration command, which is npx prisma migrate dev, and it will ask for a name of this migration. Let's just say init. And now let's go to our database, and if we reload, we can see that we have our users table, which is empty at the moment. We have the ID as our primary key, the name, email, and the password, and the created at field. So we have successfully created a users table in our database using Prisma. Now it's time to create the API endpoints so we can handle request, the login request, the logout request, and the signup request from our user. So let's close this terminal for now and all the files. To create API endpoints, inside this app folder, we're going to create a new folder called API. And inside this API folder, each new folder will be a new API endpoint. So let's create one for login. So let's just create a new folder called login, and inside this folder we need to create a file called route.js. Inside this route.js file, we are going to handle two requests. One would be the post request for our login, and the other would be get request for our logout. To handle our post request or the login request, let's create a new function. It will be an async function. So we're just going to return a response, and I'm going to use the next response from Next.js and just a JSON object. With a message of post request for login. So we can actually test this if our API endpoint is working. Let's open Postman and let's copy the base URL of our application, which is localhost 3001. Let's paste it here, and API slash the name of the folder, which is login, and we need to change the request method to post. Now if we send a request, we can see that our message that we have returned from the application using next response. So let's create another one for the get. Let's copy this and paste it. Let's make it a get request, and let's say get request for logout. And now from our Postman, if we send a get request, we can see that our message get request for logout. So our API endpoint for login and logout is working. Now let's create the API endpoint so that our user can sign up or create a new account. So I'm just going to name the API endpoint or the folder name sign up, and inside this sign up we need to create a new folder just like before. Write route.js, not case, it would be js, and I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Our sign up option also will be a post request, and let's just change the message to post request for creating a new account. Let's take this API endpoint, so it's sign up now instead of login, and it's a post request. And if we send a request, we can see that post request for creating a new account. So we have successfully created the API endpoints. So now we have to check that if we send any API request with some data, if we can read those data from our route.js file. So let's say our sign up API request has some data. We're going to send the data through the body and make sure it's JSON. So let's say it has name, let's say John Doe, and email john@mail.com. Let's put a comma here, another comma, and the password is just 1 2 3 4 5. So now our sign up API request, the post request, has some data. So now let's make changes to our route.js file so we can actually read this data and see it in here in the response tab. So let's create a new constant called req_body, which means request body, as we are getting the data from the request body. We have a request parameter here which we will use to get the data, and it will be a await function. So await req.json, and it will get us data from our API request. And instead of message, let's just say credentials, and instead of any text, we are going to put the request body so we can see it in our response tab. So let's go back to our Postman and send this request with this data, and we can see that in the response tab we can see the data. So we can say that we can read the data from our route.js or our backend or our API endpoint. So what we actually need to do is we have to take all the inputs that our user gonna input and put them in a state, and then send this to our API backend or route.js file, and from this file we are going to send those data to our database using Prisma. So now let's prepare the form fields so we can store the information or the credentials that our user gonna input. Now let's go to our login page, and here we have to create a state so we can store our user input in a state and send that to our database. We're going to use the useState hook. In order to use that hook, first we need to create this page a client component. So we can do that just by writing use client. Let's create the state here. From the useState hook, we have one state variable and the other would be the function to update the state, which is, let's say, setData, and they're coming from useState. And I'm just gonna initialize the data as empty string here. So let's say email is an empty string, and we have password, which would be initially empty. So when do we want to update this state? Whenever a user or a person inputs anything, types anything inside our input field, we want to change or update our state. So I'm going to create a new function called inputOnChange. It will work whenever there is a changes in our input field, and it will have two parameters. One would be name, the other is value. It's an arrow function, and inside this we are going to use the setData function to update our data. Now we have the function, so let's use it whenever there is a change. So let's say on change, we want to trigger this inputOnChange function, inputOnChange, and it has two parameters. So the first one would be the name, and the name is email here, and let's update the value by using the e or event object. So we can just say e.target.value, and we will get the value. I'm just going to put 2 lowercase just to avoid case sensitivity. Now let's copy this and put this on our password field, and the name here is password, and we don't need this 2 lowercase function. And if we just log the data, and open our console in our browser, we can see the changes in our state as we type here. So let's type John. So there is an error. Let's see. We forgot to put the event object here. So let's do that. And now if we type, let's clear the console. Now if we start typing John@mail and the password, we can see here our function is working perfectly and it's updating the state. Now let's create another function that will handle the form submit, because at the end our user just gonna submit this form. So let's create another function called form submit, and so we're also gonna put the e object here, and this e.prevent default is just gonna prevent the default behavior, which is reloading the page whenever we submit a form. Here we're just gonna console the data. So let's say console log data, and let's use it on our form, and this function gonna trigger whenever we submit a form. So on submit, let's say form submit, this function, it's just gonna console log our data. So now if we type John@mail and 12345 as password, if we submit, our page doesn't get reloaded and we can see the data in our console. So we are pretty much done. So what now we need to do is, instead of console logging this data, we're just going to send this data to our API route. So before doing that, let's prepare our registration page. I'm just going to copy this and paste it inside our, this is login sign up page. We need to import the useState hook. So let's just say useState, and it will be imported like that. Let's format it, and now we have to use the input on change and the form submit. Let's use the form submit. We're going to use it on submit, the form submit function, and here we have another field, another data, which is name. I'm just gonna initialize name as empty string here. Now let's use the input on change function, and we're going to use it on change. We have this e. Here we're gonna provoke this input on change function, which takes two parameters as we already know. So the first would be the name. The name is name here, and the value, we will get the value from the event object, which is e.target.value, and also gonna make it all lowercase, so 2 lowercase. It's a string. Let's see, we have make it as a string here. Yeah, it's a string, so it's a string here as well. Let's copy this. Let's put this in our email field. The name is emailed. I'm gonna keep this 2 lowercase function for the email, not for the password. So let's remove that. We don't need it for the password, and change the name to its email for this field, and password for this field. Now if we go to our sign up page, we also need to make this a client component. So let's say use client, and now there's no error and we can check. So let's say John Doe, and the email is john@mail.com, and the password is 12345. And if everything is working perfectly, then if we click on this button, we should see a console log of all this data, which we can definitely see here: the email, the name, and the password. So both of our page is ready Now we can send this data to our backend or our API route, and from that we can send it to our database to do the queries. Now let's prepare our backend. Let's prepare the sign up functionalities first. So I'm going to put all this in a try catch block so it can handle the error, and I'm just going to paste it here. As I have explained it before, we're just getting the data from the request, and we have the data inside this request body. So it would be this data when we're gonna send it. We are not sending it right now. So when we're gonna send it, it's gonna be here inside this request body. We're gonna send this request body to our database using Prisma, so it creates a new user, because for sign up we need to create a new user. To use Prisma to do that, first we need to initiate the Prisma client. So let's say const Prisma is equal to new Prisma client. Now we can use this Prisma to do queries. To do queries, we need to tell the model or the table name where we are going to do all these queries. So our table name is users, so let's say users here, and we're going to create a new user, a new record. So let's write create, and inside it as data we're just gonna pass the request body. So this one, and this will return a promise. So I'm going to put it in a result variable, and as it's a promise, we're gonna wait for it to get result. Let's format it. And if it is successful, we're gonna return a status of success, and we're also gonna send the data so you can see. So data would be the result. We want to see the result. Let's put a comma here. If we can't create a new user or record, it will be in our catch block. So let's return something from our catch block too. So the data, just gonna put the error here, and the status would be error. So here I have already created the login and logout functionalities. So let's just explain them. So I have also put it in a try catch block. So inside this try catch, we are grabbing the data from our request. We are initializing the Prisma client so we can send queries. So using this Prisma, inside our users table, we are looking for something unique, a unique data. And what are the conditions? Inside this request body, we are sending those conditions, which is the email and password, which means using the email and password, Prisma is looking for a unique record. So if the record exists, we'll get something on this result variable. If we don't find anything, then we won't have anything on this result variable. So we can just check this result variable to see if we have a user or not. If the result variable is null or undefined, means we haven't found any user. So we just returning a status of fail and the data of request body and a message that no user found. If there's something in our result variable, means we have found a user. So at first here we are going to create a cookie for this user and set this to the browser. This is just the expiration duration of that cookie. which I have put 12 hours for this cookie, and inside this cookie string, the token, for the cookie token I have put the email of the user, and expires would be the expired duration, and the path would be just slash, and we are returning a status of success and a message of logging successful. And inside this return, we are also setting the cookie in the headers, which will be available in our browser. And if there are any other errors, it's just gonna be on this catch block. So this is how our login is gonna work. And this is just the logout. We are just expiring the cookie that we have. Just by expiring the cookie, we can just log out our user. So we are just doing that here, and we are redirecting our user to the home page. So let's see how we can actually send this data to our API endpoints or our backend. So to do that, let's create a variable called options, where we have the method of the request, which is post request, and inside this body we're just gonna put our data, but we're going to convert it to JSON. So let's say JSON dot stringify, and we're just gonna put our data. So this is the options of our request. We're going to use fetch to send the request. So fetch, the location is, or the URL is API slash, we're doing it for the login functionalities, so login, and here we're just gonna put the options, and we are going to get some response, because our API, if we say that our API does send some response using next response. So we're going to get some response, and we're going to contain it in this res variable, and this returns a promise. So we're gonna await it. We have to make our function async function. Now we can await, and we're going to convert it to JSON. So let's say .json, and it also returns a promise, so I have to await it too. So let's format. Now let's see what are the responses we're getting from our backend. So I have already explained, so let's check one more time. If we don't have any user, we're going to have a status of fail. If we have a user, we're going to get a status of success, so we can just check for that. So here let's just say that if the res from that status is equal to success, means we have successfully logged in. So we're just gonna console log login successful, and empty the state variable. So let's say set data. Inside it, our email and password, just this, would be empty. So here we are just clearing the input fields, and after that we are gonna redirect our user, and we don't want to redirect them instantly, just maybe 1 second later. So I'm going to put it in a set timeout function, and let's put 1500, which means 1.5 seconds later we are going to redirect our user to, let's say, the profile page, and we can just write window dot location dot href is equal to /profile, and it will get our user or redirect our user to the profile page. And if we can't log in, so we're just going to say for the else state, for the else block, not state, let's just console log login field. So our login is completed now, but we can't check it yet because we haven't done the sign up or create a new account. So let's do that. It will be the same. So I'm just going to copy. Let's find our sign up page and paste it here. There are gonna be few changes, like it's not logging now. The API route is now sign up, and we need to clear another field if the result is successful. Means here, if we successfully created a user, we are going to clear the name field to an empty string, and now our functionalities are completed and we can check. Let's actually try here. So let's say John Smith, email is john@mail, and the password. And if we click create an account, it said failed, try again. So let's check what's going on. So there is an error because we have misspelled this status. It should be C. So now when our page is checking this success, we can actually match the success status that we have returned from our API route. Now let's try to create a new account. Let's say Ron Smith, and its email is ron@mail.com, and the password. And if we click create new account, it says login successful, and it sends us to this login page. So it's working perfectly, but we can be sure just by checking our database. So we can see that we have this Ron Smith with the email and with the password. Means we have successfully registered a new user. Now using these credentials, we can log in. So let's log in. I'm just going to copy the email, and the password is 12345. And now if I click submit, we should see a login successful, and then it will quickly, after 1.5 seconds, it's gonna take us to the profile page. So let's submit. We can see the login successful, and it brings us to this profile page. So we have successfully registered a user or created a new account and logged in with those credentials. So now if we check our application, we do have a cookie, and the name of the cookie is token, and the value is the email of the user. Now we are going to use this cookie to change the link of our navbar. So let's do that. Let's go to our navbar, and here let's create a new constant called cookie, And using this cookie, we're going to check either if we have a cookie or not. I'm going to use cookies from Next.js, and if we put get and the name is token, we will get the token. So let's now only check this cookie variable. Let's cut them for now, and I'm going to create a ternary operator. So if cookie is true, then we're going to do something, and if not, then we're going to do something else, means we're going to show different link. So if cookie is true, we're going to show the profile and the logout button. Let's put some styling of text red 700. And if the cookie is false, means if there is no cookie, then we're just going to show the login button. Let's remove this link, this styling, so it's just login. Now if we check our application, we indeed have the logout button and the profile button. We do not have the login button. Now let's make our logout button functional so we can actually log out. Means we're just going to clear this cookie and it will log us out. And this logout link will be a component. So at first I'm going to create a new component called logout.jsx, and it will return a link, and we're also going to use the link from Nextjs, and hyperreference would be nothing. The text would be logout. Let's put some styling. So class name, let's just put the text red 600, and when someone click on this link, it will log us out. So let's create a logout function, const logout, and we're just going to hit our API route. So for that, let's create the option, and we're just going to put the method, and we know that the method is get method, and we're going to send this logout request using fetch. So let's make this function async first and await fetch. The API route is /API/sign/not sign in login, and let's put the options, and after that we're just going to reload this page. So window.location.reload, and this should log out. So now if our login function is working properly, by clicking on it, it will clear the cache and it will change the links of the navbar. So let's try that. If we click, we can see that our cache is gone from the browser and the link have been changed because we're checking for the link here. Sorry, we're checking for the cookies here. If we have the cookie, then we're gonna show the profile and the logout button. If we don't have the cookie, which is the state right now, we are just going to showing the login button. So we're showing the login button here and the page is reloaded. So the last thing that we need to do is protect this profile route so that no user that is not logged in cannot access this page. And we're going to do that using middleware. So let's go to our application, our files, and inside this source I'm just going to create a new file called middleware.js, and we're gonna write all the logics here. Let's create a new function. It will be an asynchronous function called middleware. It also has the request parameter, and from this request parameter we are going to check if we have the cookie. So now let's create a constant called cookie, and from this request parameter we are going to check if we have cookies.get. we are going to put the name of the cookie, and the name of our cookie was token, so token. And now let's create a if condition. If we don't have the cookie and the request.url, if it includes the keyword /profile, then we're not going to allow our user to access this page. We're just going to redirect them to the login page. We're going to do that using next response. So let's say next response dot, we have this redirect, and we're just going to construct a new URL, and we're going to send them to /login, and we're going to preserve the current URL. So let's say rec.url, and it will get us the current URL. And that's how we can protect our profile route or page. Now let's see if it's working. If we reload, it sends us directly back to this login page. We cannot go to the profile page because we're not logged in. Let's try again. So if we try, it doesn't let us to go to the profile page. So now if we log in again using our credentials, the email was ron@mail.com and the password 12345, and if we submit, it brings us to this profile page. Now and only now we can access our profile page. Our app is almost complete, but still we don't have the toast. So let's implement the toast in our application. We are going to use the React Hot Toast. So let's just search for it. And from the documentation, we get the command to install the React Hot Toast. We have successfully installed it. Now we are going to put it inside our login page and our sign up page. Let's go back, and from here we can see that we can set the orientation, the position of our toaster. Let's just copy that, and I'm going to put it below our form. This is our login page. We need to import the toaster, so let's just start typing toaster, and we import it here. You can see. Now let's use it. So for success, we still need to import this toast. So let's import it, toast, and for success we're going to use toast.success and the message inside of it. Instead of logging out, logging successful, we're just going to use the toast success, and it should show us a toast when a user successfully logs in. And for the error, we're just going to use toast.error to show the error message in the toast. Let's do the same for our sign up page. We're going to copy this, the position. Let's import it, toaster from React Hot Toast. Also import the toast, the actual toast, and instead of console log, we're just going to say toast.success. And for the error, we're gonna say toast.error. Now let's log out, and we're going to create a new account so we can see all the toast. Let's create a new account for James Smith, and the email is james@mail, and the password 12345. We should see a toast here. We see a toast saying registration successful. Now we are going to log in, james@mail, and let's put a wrong password so we can see the error toast. Let's say 12345 which is not our password. Let's submit, and we can see that login failed. So let's put the correct password and hit submit. We can see that login is successful. So we have successfully completed all the functionality of our application. So the only thing that is left is to change this create an account button to visit profile button, but I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna leave this task for you to do. All you need to do is check the cookies, and if there is a cookie, just show the visit profile link, and if not, show this create an account button. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope to see you in the next one.